Hey guys, the Kamsh here, and today we're going to talk about another pretty sweet brew, which is Astral Druid. I played this deck a little bit pre LoE, but I think Raven Idol makes it a lot better. So we're going to talk through the deck. We're going to play a little bit. I actually hit rank 15 Legend with this deck, which is pretty sweet. But a lot of this deck comes down to RNG, so it's more of a fun, casual thing to play. We are currently on Legend Ladder, so we'll get to play a little bit on Legend Ladder. But definitely more of a fun deck than necessarily a competitive one. But you can definitely get wins with it. Let's go ahead and talk about the deck. So we have two Innervate. Innervate just helps you cast Astral first. For those of you uninitiated the deck, let me explain this real quick. So Astral Communion gives you 10 mana crystals, you discard your hand. So you want to either Innervate this or coin this or Wild Growth into this. So you discard your entire hand, then you have 10 mana, and you just start drawing all these ridiculous big threats. So basically the deck's divided into a few categories. You have your Ramp, which is Innervate and Wild Growth, and possibly Raven Idol. Raven Idol kind of does everything. Into Astral Communion, you have your combo, which is Astral Communion, and then you have all your big threats. And then you have Nourish and Naga Sea Witch, which let you act as a normal ramp druid if you don't draw Astral Communion in time. Although you usually have about a 50% chance to draw it in time to cast it, on turn 3 or 4 or whatever. So Nourish and Naga Sea Witch, if you innervate them or something like that, lets you cast your big threats cheaper without Astral Communion. But really our main goal is to innervate coin or Wild Growth out and Astral Communion. So Raven Idol is good because it can give us an Astral Communion if we don't have one already in our hand. It can give us Innervate, so you can actually off coin. You can do this on turn 1 with only one Innervate, because you go Raven Idol for Innervate, Astral Communion. I've actually done that before, it's pretty sweet. And then you cast Astral Communion, draw all your big threats. So continue on, we have Wild Growth, which again ramps you into your big threats, and then it draws you cards after. So this is cool because it's both ramp and it cycles after. It gives you excess mana if you cast it at 10 mana. And then you get to draw another card. This works particularly well with Chromagus because you get to draw 2 cards. Astral Communion, which is our combo enabler, and similarly it actually works the same way as Wild Growth. You will discard your whole hand, but you'll still get excess mana. So if your hand is just Astral Communion, you can just cycle it, which is pretty cool because the second one isn't completely useless. And then you have Nourish, which can ramp you if you don't have Astral, or once you have Astral, can just refill your hand. Azure Drake also refills your hand, and it draws you a card, and it's a sort of a threat, which is nice after Astral. And then we're playing 3 sets of 5 drops, so if we Azure Drake or Nourish, we can cast another 5 drop, use our mana efficiently. And then Naga Sea Witch, which works both with Astral and without. It lets you play like Sea Witch, then another big threat in one turn, so it cheats on mana a little bit. So it's great when you have 10 mana and multiple cards in hand. And it also works if you just ramp into it, without Astral. We have 2 Lore to refill our hand after Astral, 2 big taunts against the aggressive decks. You cast one of these on turn 2 against like Aggro Shaman, they're going to have a hard time winning. Boom, just a very solid big threat, which basically applies to a lot of these. Chromagus lets you draw more of your big threats. Turn 2 Chromagus is really hard to beat. Kel'Thuzad brings back all your stuff. And getting out Kel'Thuzad with a taunt is really strong. Rag obviously just gets a lot of value. Sneeds gets a lot of value. Rafam is both a big threat and it refills your hand with a card. Aviana sometimes can live if you cast on like turn 2, lets you just play all your big threats. You can sort of storm off. If you guys are familiar with the storm mechanic for MTG, you can cast a lot of spells in one turn by playing Aviana, having it live, and then going like Lore, draw 2, into a Lore, draw 2, into an Azure Drake, just going off. So Aviana's pretty sweet. You can also ramp it out with Sea Witch. It's important to note that Sea Witch actually takes precedence over Aviana, so even if you have both in play, the creatures will still cost 5, so you have to trade off your Sea Witch. But if you ramped in this normally, then you can cast some stuff. With Innervate and Aviana, you can cast like 3 creatures in a turn on 10 mana, which is pretty sweet. 3 creatures in addition to Aviana. Then we have Scenarios, which makes taunts that's just big or can pump your team. Works really well with Onyxia if you get them out sequentially. Nefarian refills her hand and is big. Onyxia fills our board. Ysera is really good just because it gets a lot of long-term value. And then, of course, Deathwing because it just wipes the board. So you like Astral, they play something, you just Deathwing. Now you have a 12/12 on like turn 2 or 3 or whatever, and they have no board. It gets worse once you start drawing cards, or playing stuff to board, but still really sweet. So that's the deck. Let's go ahead and play some games with it.